Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to Pink Shoe Sisters Radio, where we interview top new business leaders, passionate business builders, multi-million-dollar mavens, and catalysts of change. If you are looking for a woman's perspective on starting or growing a business, look no further than Pink Shoe Sisters Radio. Here is your host, Bonni Shevin-Sandy, with co-host and editor, Marci Klein, who are co-authors in the Amazon bestseller, Women in Business, Leading the Way.
Hi, I'm Bonni Shevin-Sandy, the president and CEO of Diversity Promos. We're a global agency providing unique, out-of-the-box retail promotional merchandise. I'm also a best-selling author, a serial entrepreneur, a business mentor, and I'm all about diversity and inclusion. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, I'm Marci Klein, CEO and Emmy-winning director at Klein Creative Media. I tell stories to help businesses make more money by harnessing the power of video. I'm also a pilot, surfer, and best-selling author who loves to advocate for women in business. Bonni and I are both certified women-owned businesses through WBENC, and we are here to share ideas, inspirations, and expertise to help you succeed in your business ventures.
Hi, I'm Bonni Shevin-Sandy, and welcome to the new Pink Shoe Sister radio show.
Hi, I'm Marci Klein, and here to introduce our guest, Ed Horwitz. I personally know Ed. I used to work with him a long time ago in TV. And it was a great opportunity working with you, Ed. Let me tell you a little bit about Ed before I let you talk, Ed. Ed's a 40-year entertainment industry veteran. He's had numerous films and reality TV shows under his belt in various positions as he worked his way up to the top of his game. Some of his credits include Jaws, The Parent Trap, Unsolved Mysteries, Eliminate, Meet My Folks, and too many others to list. Currently, he's the co-executive producer on the hit CBS series, The Talk, where he's been there for over 4 years. Ed, welcome to the Pink Shoe Sister radio show. We are super happy to have you as our guest.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Can we just dive right in?
Yeah, go for it. I'm ready.
Okay. Ed, you've been in television for a long time. How have you seen the roles of women change over the years, or have you seen them change?
That's a good question. I have been working with women probably my whole career, my whole television career at least, and that's been since 1980. I guess I would say that they've changed in that maybe they don't have to prove themselves as much anymore. I mean, I've always worked with women in high roles, but the personalities and their demeanor is different today than it was 40 years ago, for sure. And I really just feel like that it's because they've proved themselves and they don't feel like they have to do that any longer. I think that's a big component of it.
Explain like a vibe, how it was back then. What kind of vibe was it?
Okay. I feel like in the 80s, or maybe even before that, and I don't know how much before that, women in powerful positions needed to prove themselves or needed to make sure that people knew that they could fulfill the roles that they were in. And they were gruff. I mean, I have to just say, I worked with a lot of women at that time, and they were.
And would you say that women were too authoritative back then?
I feel like they felt like they needed to be, but probably really didn't. It always, to be honest with you, it felt forced. It felt like that wasn't really them. Like if I was friends with them outside of work, it wouldn't be the same as the way that they were. And I don't feel like women have to do that anymore. Now it's just part of life that you work with women in powerful roles as much as men.
You told me this story the other day about one woman in particular who actually made you quit a job.
Yeah.
Tell us that story.
So there was this one woman I will keep her name anonymous. And I had a job that I really liked. It was one of my actually first showrunner jobs. And I was hired to do this show with Robin Leach about the life of the rich and famous. And she just picked on every single thing I did, which everybody else seemed to love. But was really, really nasty about it. And one day she said to me that, we're in the middle of this argument, and she said to me, you and I just have very different styles. And I said, you know what? I think that's the biggest compliment anyone's ever paid me in my career, because I would not want to deal with people the way you do. I wouldn't want to make anybody that works for me feel the way you do. And I said, because of it, I said, I don't think I should stay at this job. It's the only job I've ever quit in my entire career. I just didn't feel like it wasn't something against me. I feel like she was one of those women that needed to prove, and she was just felt like she had to be a bitch to do it. She had a very good resume. She just had a horrible personality, and everybody that I talked to afterwards said, oh my God, how did you last 6 weeks with her? Nobody's ever lasted that long. So I just quit. It was the first job I ever quit. And ironically, the next day, Brandon Tartikoff called me, and I got the best job that I've ever had in my life that I wouldn't have been able to take if I hadn't quit that job. And I worked with him for the next 3 years, starting literally the day after. I believe in karma. Exactly. I worked at a company, and this was in the very beginning of my TV career. I started there, I was 22 years old. And the husband and wife were both big. The husband owned the company, and the wife was a producer in the documentary division. And they were amazing for my career. I mean, he assigned me after a while, after seeing what I could do, he assigned me to work with her specifically. And I did, and we got along great. And even though she was a very gruff woman, she was one of those women that, you know, every other word out of her mouth was a cuss word. And she was she just tried to be like a man. I know that wasn't her outside, because I hung out with them sometimes outside, but in the office, it was a totally different person. Now, one day I just said to her, she said something really horrible to me. And I go, why do you have to be like that? And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, why can't you just ask me the question like a person? Why do you have to ask me like you hate my guts? And I'm still friends with her 38, 40 years later. And she told me she thinks about that every day still. If she feels like something came out of her mouth that wasn't the way she meant it. She said, I still think of you saying that to me. But I was telling Marci the other day that I said that to her because of a way she said something to me, but her husband was the same way. And if he had said that to me, I probably wouldn't have called him out on it. And Marci asked me why. And I was going to say, why do you think that is? I don't honestly know the answer to that question. I guess I just felt like that's the way men are. But why is this woman trying to be like a man? Why can't she have power and be like a woman, not try to have to put on air that's not really her? I totally agree with you. That's what I believe in. You know, that's the answer. No facade. You do you, I do me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just be yourself, and we can all progress or not based on who we are. But obviously it was meant to be, because then you got your dream job. Yeah, exactly.
How do you hire?
I have this issue a lot. Not necessarily where I am now, but every company I've ever been at, because I think as a society now, we feel like we need to have a diverse group of people that we work with, both racially, sexually, sexual orientation, everything. And I don't really like to do that, because I feel like I should hire the best person for the job, even though I may think to myself, okay, I need more women on this, or we have too many women, I need some men on this, or I need some African-American people, or whatever. I still try to block that out and hire the best person for the job. And I don't really like it when I'm pressured, you know, we need to hire this type of person for this job. I feel like that's not really, my job is to do the best for the show. And that's not necessarily the best, just because it looks better on paper. I love that. I mean, all that shows, Ed, is that you're authentic, which is amazing. Right. So just like, you know, you're giving everyone a free chance. That's what diversity is still all about. So it's not like you have to hire a woman, or you have to hire someone of color, or you have to hire someone of a different ethnicity, but you're choosing the best candidate for your position, which is what you should be doing. Yeah, I would hate to hire someone knowing that that person is the best person and they can't get the job because they didn't fit that bill. Exactly. I love it.
It kind of reminds me of that Netflix show that they just recently, Love is Blind.
Yeah, I love that show.
And it seems like you almost have that naturally. You just are.
Right.
The person comes in, you're not looking at anything about them.
I honestly would rather interview people over the telephone for that reason, to be honest with you. And I've done a lot of Skype interviews. And I know we can see people when we do Skype, but I've done a lot of it that way and never met someone until they walked into their first day of work. But
changing the subject, you work on a really amazing show, The Talk, and there's 5 strong-minded women in front of the camera.
Yep.
Of course, I don't know what's happening behind the camera, but why don't you talk about what it's like working with all these women? And
I just have to chime in and say I love The Talk, and I watch it every day. And I usually don't watch any show every day, especially a reality show,
Right.
but they talk about real life stuff. And I love the diversity in it. So I just have to give kudos to you and to the crew at The Talk. A very big thumbs up.
Thank you. Watch the show this coming Thursday that we taped this morning. I mean, I'm literally sitting here just like this in this exact same spot doing the show on Zoom, crying my eyes.
I saw this morning's already. It had some really great hot topics.
Oh yeah. In fact, it's going to be on our social media today, but we had Gail King on for 3
amazing
acts of the show and talking about what's going on in the world today. And oh my God, I mean, Gail King was crying, and that doesn't happen. So it was so moving. I cannot tell you. The answer to your question is that it's interesting. I mean, like, they are 5 strong-minded women that are all so different from each other. I cannot tell you. I mean, you really have to learn 5 different approaches because, I mean, definitely Sharon Osbourne is so different than Marie Osmond, who's so different than Cheryl Underwood, who's so different than Eve, the rapper, who's so different than Carrie Ann Inaba, the dancer. I mean, like, it is a very diverse table, and they're lovely. I mean, they are all lovely to deal with, but strong-minded enough to know when it's right to push for what they really feel or not, and when to back off. The other thing is that this show is run by women. I mean, we have a male that is the showrunner, but there are 2 executive producers on the show also that are women that are
I love it.
very, the top dogs on the show, and a female network executive that we answer to. So it is very female oriented. And the other thing is that we have 150 people on our staff, and 76 of them are women. So that's a bigger ratio than I've ever worked with before, and I think it's because it's a female show and it's a women's roundtable show, and there should be a lot of female representation on the show, but it's fine.
What I love is they all have their own views, all of them.
Yep.
They're all strong women, and I love each and every one of them, but they have totally different takes and views on almost everything.
Yeah,
which is what makes it great. It's a little confrontational.
Yeah, if they all agreed, it would be on everything.
Exactly.
It would be kind of boring. Yeah, we only need one of them at that point.
So you dealing with all the different personalities has got to be a little bit challenging.
And trying to, each one of them you learn it fast, what they like and what they don't like, and, how to approach them and what not to approach them about. And once you do, it's wonderful. I mean, they respect you. They respect everybody on the show. They are lovely from the bottom to the top of the group on the show. I really do feel lucky to go to work every day to this job, and I love it. And I'm so happy that the fact that CBS shut us down and we figured out a way to put the show on the air every day still. And we were the first one back on the air of any show.
I saw that.
And I'm very proud of that, because that was very much, a lot of it was me putting this whole thing together. And it's great. I'm very happy about it. And I'm sitting here in my house working.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's completely amazing.
I want to ask you a question, Ed. Is there a difference between working with men and working with women that you can identify, that you can pinpoint?
You know what? I try to think of what the reason for that is, and I don't honestly know. I just feel like I have been more successful working directly with women than men. I don't really know the answer. I mean, like, I got along very well with the woman I told you about, her and her husband that had this company. I got along very well with him, obviously, because he's the one that put me together with his wife, because he thought we'd work well together. And because of her, I really moved up the ladder. We just got along very well. And I went and then worked with another woman. And I don't honestly know. I just, maybe because I feel like it's a more honest and close relationship, which is the kind of working relationships I like to have, than I am with more. The men are more, it's all business. And the women, you could be a little bit more, they get into more personal stuff too. And I just feel like we have a more honest relationship, whereas the men, you don't really know as well. Maybe that I'm just sort of talking it out and figuring it out. But I feel like most of the men that I work with, I really don't know as well as I know the women. And I think that may be part of it.
Yeah, but women are, psychologically, women are more open. That's a proven fact. So right. I could totally see that.
Yeah, I feel like I can get along with anybody.
Exactly.
So, and you just learn how to do that. So,
Ed, you said something about that women are more open and men are more businesslike. Can you take that outside of the TV world? How do you think that equates in business? Do you think, I know you're in TV business, but how do you think that would equate in business? Do you think that will hurt women or help women? Because we clearly haven't gotten completely equal on the outside world, right? It sounds like in the TV world, it's getting a little closer. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, obviously, like you said, I'm pretty much only in the TV business, not in the, real estate business or whatever. But I don't know, like if a woman was in the same position in a big corporation, if she was head of a giant conglomerate, which I guess there are plenty of women that are in that position, would they be as open with the people that they work with as the women that I work with in entertainment? I guess I don't really know how to answer that question because I haven't worked with them. But like, take Sherry Redstone, for instance. Is she going to complain about her husband to me, or is she going to let us get to know each other, the real each other, like a man in her position would? I don't honestly know. But I do know in my business, most men would not.
Okay.
Interesting.
What advice do you have to other women who want to go in the TV business?
Just don't put any restrictions on yourself. Like, don't come in and think I'm going to start out as an assistant and I'll probably be there for a while. Start out as an assistant and move and meet everybody you possibly can to get to know what areas you gravitate towards, number one, and make contacts to move up. Because I'll tell you that most people that I interview, most females that I interview, I always ask the question, what is your ultimate goal? Where do you want to end up? And most of them say, oh, I'd like to be a producer or writer. Rarely do I hear them say, I would like to be the showrunner, or I would like to be an owner of a company. I do get that from a lot of men. And I wish the women would also just aim for the top. You don't have to stop in the middle, or you don't have, there's no limits. Why would it be any different than what a man would want?
I love that answer.
I do too. Thank you very much for that. Amazing. I had that challenge. I was a woman who ran the manufacturing plant. So it was tough being a lady boss and doing union contracts at the same time.
I bet.
We were talking about women feeling like they had to prove themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think I fell victim to that. When you and I worked together on Eliminate. Do you remember that?
Oh, very well.
So when you and I worked together on Eliminate, can you talk about how I used to be, or how a lot of women used to be like me, and what you saw?
Sure. I remember when I first met you, and I was introduced to you, and after talking to you for a little while, I felt like you were a person that knew your stuff. I could tell you were confident and you knew what you were doing. But then as we got to know each other and as time went on in the job, you were one of those women that I kind of mentioned before that was just very overbearing and, in my opinion, unnecessarily so. And like, you could have got a lot with a little bit kinder requesting, in a kinder way, as opposed to the
candy coated.
Yeah, as opposed to just like more of a demanding, or I need this and I need that, and it almost makes the person that you're asking for push back a little bit. And I just felt like you were definitely one of those people in the beginning. Now, I honestly can say that now only because I feel like you're not that person anymore. Because I feel like you've proved yourself already. You already know where you've been and you know what you can do. And I don't know if I would have said that to you right now if I felt like you were still that person, but I don't. So I think I can tell you that's the old Marci. And it wasn't always a very pleasant experience, even though you always got the job done and you always did it very well. But getting there sometimes was rough.
Yeah, the experience along the way. And it's so interesting because I wanted to throw myself under the bus there a little bit because I knew that that's who I was. But I do believe that was back in the day. If you didn't come out balls to the walls, you got trampled on and you got kicked to the curb. And there was 10 other guys standing in line waiting to take your job. And yet I still wonder if the guys who were in my same position back then, were they acting bossy the same way that I was, but it came off different because they were male?
I don't think so.
No?
I really do not think so.
So it's just, were other women acting like me? Were all of us women?
Okay, well, actually, I don't know how to answer that question because I don't know if it was, I don't think so because that's just the way I expected guys to ask, or if they just really didn't. And I don't even know how to know the answer to that question. Did you feel like in general, a lot of women were walking around like me? Yes, but I also knew many that didn't. Now, I'm trying to figure out if I can figure out who ended up more successful.
That's what I was going to ask you. That was my next question.
Yeah, I know. I figured that as I was answering that question. I kind of feel like it probably is. There isn't a difference because some of the ones that I know that I was friends with, and I ended up being friends with because we all got along very well, are still doing very well now. As much as some of the ones that felt like they had to act a little tougher.
And the ones that had to act tougher, are they still acting tougher now? The ones that you still see?
I can tell you a couple that I know that are no longer even in the business, and I think that it's because nobody liked working with them. I really do. And I also think that there are a couple that just are so good, even though they were tough, that yes, I know one in particular that I fired this person, and it was actually on Eliminate. The first season I fired this person, and now she runs one of the biggest production companies in all of Hollywood. And
wow,
literally, and sold her company recently for like $160 million. So she's doing very well. I fired her because I said to her, you cannot treat people that way that work for me. No one will be treated on a show that I work on like that.
I agree.
And we just couldn't take the way she was screaming at people. But it served her well. She's still that way from what I understand.
Do you think that women act the way that they act, like even me, because we weren't trained? There's a missing something that do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Maybe that's true because maybe 20 years ago, people didn't groom women to be the top.
I recently got an opportunity to work with you again.
Yes.
I leave Eliminate 20 years later. You take it from here, Ed.
Yeah. So I'm working on The Talk now, and I have decided that I think we need some new way to transition into our show. It's just so boring the way we come in all the time. So I'm like, I think maybe we have this beautiful lot in Studio City. It's historic. Lucille Ball shot her show there, and Mary Tyler Moore bought the lot and owned it and had MTM Productions there and did Mary Tyler Moore show there. They did Rhoda on the stage that we're doing The Talk on, and it's a historic lot. And I'm like, we should see this lot. And how do we do it? Let's get a drone. And you know what? I just realized I remember this person I used to work with, Marci. I hear that she's a drone operator now and a pilot. So I thought, I don't know what she's like. I haven't worked with her in years, but this is one day. How bad could it be? So I called her. We set this thing up. We had the best time. It was not the same Marci that I dealt with before. Marci had achieved what she wanted. She was a wife and a mother and a successful at her business. And she just seemed happy and content and not with this, I don't know if you want to call it a chip on your shoulder or what it was, but that was gone. It was a pleasant experience, a very professional experience, and we love what we got, and we use it to get into our show now all the time. We're flying over the valley, come right through the doors into our studio. It is really cool, and I don't know any other talk show that does it, and I'm really happy to have it, and everybody was very impressed with it.
Oh, yay. So it's so interesting. I'm just wondering if women, because Bonni, did you have to be tough? Like, how did you deal with working in a man's world? I'm just curious.
Well, because I dealt with different cultures and dealt with the Orient, it was very tough. So I had to learn Cantonese and Mandarin.
Oh, wow.
So that I could deal with them. And I didn't let them know at first because I wanted it to be my strength and their weakness, not knowing that I knew their language. However, working in different cultures with men back then, yeah, it was very, very tough. They looked down on women. But I did learn very quickly as I studied each culture before I went into that Providence how to do things. Like, for instance, example, Singapore. You have to align yourself with who you are in a company. Like, the president goes first in each company, then the vice president, and then the head of sales, and so on and so forth. So learning the culture is, still there. So I think we've become a lot stronger in the U.S., but I'd like to see this become a lot more global, and I see that happening, but we're not quite there yet. And I'm not talking about just women. I'm talking about, I'm all about diversity.
I feel good about that.
Well, how do you feel that we're probably going to have a female vice president soon of the United States of America?
I usually don't talk politics or religion.
I just mean women in politics now. I mean, women are running countries now and stuff. And
yes,
that didn't happen 20 years ago, I guess. Well, I guess
right. Why? Because we're too emotional, right?
Yeah.
That's what everyone thought, but
yeah,
it doesn't seem to be my point is it doesn't seem to be an issue anymore.
Do you mentor anybody?
I have done it. As a matter of fact, I haven't done it in a long time, but I do have a lot of people that are on my show, mostly PAs or mostly people in lower positions that know that they can come to me and just say, can I have 20 minutes with you and just ask you a bunch of questions? And I do that all the time. And I ask them, I go, where do you want to go? Let me help you get in that direction, because the problem with the show that I work on is we're about to go into season 11. And there are people that have been there since day one, and nobody moves because there are people that have been there since day one. We have 150 people on the show, and I probably hire 2 to 4 people every year, and that's it. Nobody ever leaves. It's such a great job. So I'm honest with the PAs. I'm like, if I were you, tell me what you want to do. Let me help you find something else somewhere else. As much as I would hate to lose you because you're really good and I see you have a bright future, I don't want to stifle your career because you're not going to go anywhere here. Chances are, and if you do, it's going to take a while. You're going to be a PA for 2 or 3 years, whereas you are ready to move into something else. But just it's not available here.
That's a good point.
It's frustrating for me, and I don't want to hurt them by making them think, or mislead them by making them think that they're going to go somewhere here, because chances are they won't. And quite a few have, but it's taken a long time.
Honestly, Ed, kudos to you for speaking your mind and telling them the truth. That way, they're opening their ideas to different people, and they're providing more opportunities for themselves instead of holding back and hoping and wishing and trying to stay in that same field and try to push towards the same goal instead of prospering in different directions.
Yeah. And I have a lot of people that call me all the time and ask me, do I know anybody good for this position or that position? And I recommend people from my show that I probably shouldn't, because it only hurts me. But number one, I think fresh blood is a good thing. And number two, again, give these people the opportunity. They're just going to stay in this one level for so long, and that's not fair.
Have you personally ever been discriminated against in the industry?
I honestly do not think I've ever been discriminated against. However, I've been in awkward situations. I'm a gay man, and I didn't come out until I was 31. And I was in certain positions. I'll never forget one time I was head of production at a company, and we were about to do our first TV movie of the week. And so I met the director and the writer of the movie. Nice guy, older guy, very conservative, very kind of a tough man's man. And he said, can you come with me on location scout? I said, absolutely. And this is right after I came out too. And I guess I wasn't very secure with that. And we're driving in the car, just the two of us. And he started basically gay bashing other people. Just like, oh, well, there's, all these faggots over here and all. And I'm like, he goes, we're in Hollywood now, because he wasn't from LA. And I'm just sitting there. I basically listened to it. I didn't participate. I didn't go, oh yeah, or anything like that. But I just was like nodding my head. And today would have been a whole different story. But, and again, I don't even know if he ever knew I was gay. I mean, I was a man that I have 3 children. I was married to a woman for 12 years. And this was right after that. But I can't really say I think I was ever discriminated against. But I've been definitely in a few of that kind of situation.
This sounds very uncomfortable,
and
very inappropriate. And You were just.
I've definitely been also in other rooms where a bunch of men are. You can tell they're about to say something like that, and they look around the room first to make sure, to see if they should, and they don't. But you can tell what they were about to say, or
That's
you
almost as
hear
bad.
them censoring themselves.
That might be just as bad.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It is no less harmful.
You're right. It just means that they're cowards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess in wrapping up, Bonni, do you want to ask anything before we wrap up?
I just have to say how much I enjoyed this interview. You are amazing. You're inspiring. And now you are a mentor to me.
Oh,
thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was very pleasant. Your questions were interesting, and it made me think a lot about the answers to the questions. As I was saying it made me think about what's really happening and some of the things I never thought about before. So that was pleasant.
So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yeah, Ed, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Ed Horwitz from the Talk Television.
We hope you enjoyed this broadcast of the Pink Shoe Sisters Radio. As certified women-owned business leaders, we strive to give back and inspire others. We close today's show with the motto of the Pink Shoe Sisters. Behind every successful woman is a tribe of other successful women who have her back. Thank you to TNS Publishing, Bonni Shevin-Sandy, and Marci Klein. For more information, visit www.pinkshoesisters.com.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.